I lingered in the dimly lit corner of the ballroom, watching as a couple moved fluidly across the dance floor, completely absorbed in each other. Their eyes were locked, lost in silent communication. The woman's breath quickened as her partner drew her closer, pulling her into an embrace tighter than she'd expected. Her small frame fit seamlessly against his tall, commanding presence, their movements flawlessly in sync. They were graceful, captivating. He exuded the effortless confidence of an athlete, while she followed with ease. The entire room watched in awe. Their connection was undeniable, not necessarily love, but something stronger than casual friendship. Her honey blonde hair swayed gently with each step, occasionally brushing against his shoulder. Not that she had much choice. His grip was firm, almost possessive. Perhaps I would have envied the way he held her if she weren't my wife of 11 years, but instead of jealousy, all I felt was anger and humiliation. This wasn't the first time we'd attended her company's annual awards gala. Everyone here knew she was married to me, yet they stood by, waiting for a confrontation. Some stole glances in my direction, gauging my reaction. Others whispered behind their wine glasses, their amusement barely concealed. I remained motionless, unwilling to give them a show. After 3 dances, the couple finally stepped away from the floor and joined a group at a round table near the center of the room. I watched as Kelsey, my wife, looked up at Jason with a gaze that was once meant only for me. Her eyes sparkled with admiration, that same wild, devoted expression I hadn't seen in years. The sight made my stomach churn. I clenched my jaw, my only thought repeating like a warning in my head. It won't be long now. The pressure was building, and I just had to hold on a little longer. I struggled to reconcile the emotions warring inside me: rage, bitterness, betrayal, all tangled with the remnants of love and trust I had once given her. But the battle was already lost. Despair crept in, suffocating the last of my hope. I lowered my head, feeling the weight of my failure. I had spent months trying to fix what was broken. I'd planned date nights, taken over household chores, surprised her with thoughtful gestures. I had tried to start conversations, only for her to leave the room. I had written love notes and left flowers, but they always ended up in the trash. Even the bouquets I sent to her office went unacknowledged. What more could I possibly do? Shaking off my thoughts, I headed to the bar, where Marianne, an old friend of Kelsey's from work, was sipping a cocktail. I stepped beside her and forced a casual tone. "Enjoying yourself?" I asked. She glanced at me, her lips curling into a polite smile. "I always do at these events. Harold mostly comes for the free drinks." I lifted my empty glass. "Can't say I blame him." Marianne took another sip before turning toward me, her expression curious. "Hey, I haven't seen Jason's wife tonight. Is she here?" I kept my face neutral, choosing my words carefully. "She always dresses well and is nice to talk to." Marianne leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. "Oh, didn't Kelsey mention? Jason served her with divorce papers today." A slow, sinking feeling settled in my gut. My grip on the glass tightened slightly. "Really?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. She nodded, her speech slightly loosened by the booze. "Yep, guess she wasn't exactly fulfilling her marital responsibilities." I wasn't surprised by Marianne's loosened tongue. If anything, it confirmed what I already suspected. I forced a chuckle, shaking my head. "No, Kelsey didn't mention it. We came straight from work, so we didn't have time to talk about much." That was a lie. We had taken the afternoon off to prepare for the event. She had plenty of time to tell me. She just chose not to. Refocusing, I refilled my drink, picked up a glass of white wine for Kelsey, and walked toward her table. She and Jason were still deep in conversation, completely absorbed in each other. Neither noticed my approach. "Kels, I brought you some wine," I said, setting the glass down in front of her. She flinched at the sound of my voice, whipping around to face me. "Oh, you scared me," she said quickly, reaching for the glass. "Thank you, honey." The air around us grew thick with discomfort. The others at the table either averted their eyes, suddenly fascinated by the stained tablecloth, or stole cautious glances at me. A younger man, mid-20s at most, smirked as he observed the situation. Our eyes met, and he held my gaze for a moment, his amusement evident. But after a few seconds, the smirk faded, and he, too, found the tablecloth worth studying. As the night wore on and the ballroom began to empty, I could tell Kelsey wasn't in a hurry to leave Jason's side. But I had reached my limit. I straightened and said, "We should probably head home, honey. I still need to take the babysitter back, and we agreed we wouldn't stay past 2. Kelsey exhaled heavily, as if the suggestion exhausted her. All right, fine. I suppose it's getting late. She turned to Jason, giving him one last lingering look. See you Monday. A visible wave of relief passed through the table. Everyone seemed glad the tension was ending. Extending my hand, I said, Jason, good to see you. He took it, gripping firmly, too firmly as if trying to prove something. Jason was taller than me by a couple of inches, but I outweighed him. I squeezed back slightly harder, holding his gaze. What I saw in his eyes was exactly what I expected. Arrogance, deception, a misplaced sense of superiority. After a moment, he released his grip. Good night, he said, his voice flat. I nodded, offering a polite wave to the rest of the table before guiding Kelsey toward the exit. The car ride home was silent, but Kelsey's expression was unmistakable. She was practically glowing, as if she had just experienced the best night of her life. Once we arrived, she went to check on Caitlin, our 9-year-old daughter, while I handled the babysitter. By the time I returned, Kelsey was already in bed, fast asleep. I checked in on Caitlin, then retreated to the spare room. It was pointless to expect closeness. Those days had long since faded. I could hardly remember the last time we had been together as husband and wife. Lying there, staring at the ceiling, I felt the last strands of patience unraveling. By morning, I was up early, running through my mental checklist for the day. I found Caitlin in the living room, curled up on the couch, watching cartoons. Did you eat breakfast? I asked from the doorway. Yeah! She waved her spoon, sending drops of milk splattering onto the carpet. I sighed. Easy, kiddo. Mom's still sleeping. I need to get some work done in my office, okay? Okay, Dad, she answered, a little too loudly, making me chuckle despite myself. By 8:30, I was dialing my lawyer. He worked from home on Saturdays. Morning, Bill. It's Matthew Franks, I said as he picked up. Matt, Bill greeted. I take it this isn't a happy call. No, I confirmed. It's time. Jason served his wife yesterday. Has Kelsey contacted a lawyer yet? I don't think so, but I'll ask around. Meet me at the cafe in half an hour. We'll get the paperwork signed and notarized, then file first thing Monday. She'll be served at lunch. Sounds good, I said, already grabbing my coat. See you soon. I arrived early, exchanging a nod with the barista as I grabbed my drink. Choosing a seat near the fireplace, I settled in, my thoughts drifting. I never imagined I'd be here, preparing to divorce the only woman I'd ever truly loved. It's difficult to pinpoint the exact moment you realize your life as you know it is unraveling. For me, it was something as trivial as a traffic ticket. One of those automated fines, where a camera catches you running a red light, snaps a photo, and sends you the evidence in the mail. When I opened the envelope, I chuckled at first. I recognized the driver immediately. It was Kelsey. She always turned on her headlights when she was in a rush. I hesitated before unfolding the letter, already knowing I wouldn't confront her directly. What good would it do? But when I looked closer at the picture, my stomach tightened. Kelsey wasn't alone. A man's shoulder and arm were clearly visible beside her. His face wasn't in the frame, but I knew exactly who he was. Logically, it could have been a simple work lunch or an innocent meeting, but something about it gnawed at me. I checked the timestamp, March 5th. It wasn't long ago. Pulling out my phone, I scrolled through our text messages from that day. I'll stop by Mary's after work to pick up some clothes for Kate. At the time, I hadn't questioned it. Mary's daughter was a little older than ours, and they often passed down clothes to Kate. But now that I thought about it, Mary usually brought them to the office, not the other way around. Still, I had dismissed any suspicion. Don't worry. Want me to cook dinner? Yes. What time should I expect you? Well, we might chat for a bit. Okay, have fun. Thank you. We will do that. I stared at her last message, my grip tightening around my phone. We? I opened Google Maps and looked up the intersection from the ticket. It was nowhere near Mary's house. Still, I told myself it could be nothing. But then, the memories came flooding back. Over the past few months, something had shifted between us. Since late November, Kelsey had withdrawn. During the holidays, we had argued more than usual, though always about small things. By January, she no longer reached for my hand when we walked together. Conversations had become stiff, mechanical, revolving around work or Caitlin. Any discussions about dreams, vacations, or the future had disappeared. I had been too distracted to put the pieces together. Financially, we had always been secure. I had a trust fund that had been accumulating since childhood thanks to my great-grandfather's investments in land. Over generations, it grew as my family reinvested in the estate. By the time my parents passed, I had inherited everything. Despite our wealth, Kelsey and I had worked hard, building our net worth with an eye on retirement. From the beginning, we had a prenuptial agreement. Our assets remained separate, with a clause ensuring Caitlin's education would always be covered in the event of divorce. If anything ever happened to me, legal safeguards ensured Kelsey wouldn't inherit a cent beyond what we had agreed upon. With these protections in place, I already had long-standing ties to a family lawyer and financial advisors. I reached out to my attorney, asking for a referral to the best divorce lawyer in the area. I scheduled a consultation, not because I was ready to take action, but because I needed to understand my options. Sitting across from my lawyer, I laid out everything. My suspicions, the traffic ticket, the emotional distance that had crept into our marriage. He listened carefully before offering a suggestion. "Well, Matt," he said, "we could hire a private investigator to dig into this, see if there's anything substantial. Unfortunately, the ones I usually work with are booked up. It could take weeks before they can take on your case." I sighed, rubbing my temple. "I don't want to wait that long. I'm already losing sleep over this. Any alternatives?" "There's one option," he admitted reluctantly. "He's not my first choice. His reputation's a bit complicated. We call him Larry the Dastardly." I let out a short laugh. "That's reassuring. Why the nickname?" My lawyer hesitated. "He used to be a cop, got fired after a few complaints, nothing criminal, but enough to raise eyebrows. He's trying to rebuild his career. He works fast, but let's just say most people wouldn't trust him long term." I frowned. "Is what he does legal?" "Technically, yes," my lawyer assured me. "He just operates in a gray area. He gets results. Detailed photographs, videos, emails, phone records. His methods skirt the line of what's admissible in court, but if there's something to find, he'll uncover it." I thought for a moment before nodding. "Fine. As long as everything he does is above board, let's see what he can find. If I don't like how he operates, I'll drop him and move on to someone else. Can he start today?" "I'll make a call. I'll handle all contact through my office so you don't have to deal with him directly. I'll update you later." "All right," I agreed. "Let's do it." After filling out the necessary paperwork, I connected my lawyer and Larry to my accountant and withdrew the retainer from my personal account, one Kelsey had no access to. I wasn't ready to make any accusations. If I was wrong, I didn't want to tip her off and damage our marriage further. At the same time, I made an effort to fix things on my own. I didn't know what was happening in her mind, but if there was a way to salvage what we had, I had to try. I went out of my way to be more attentive, to show her she was still my priority. I planned surprise date nights, made small romantic gestures, tried to reignite the connection we had lost. I wanted to be the husband her friends envied, but I was met with rejection at every turn. It was then I realized this wasn't just a rough patch. The distance between us wasn't temporary. We'd already crossed the point of no return. On a quiet Thursday afternoon, Bill called me into his office. Larry had compiled his findings, and the moment had come to face the truth. I sat in silence, staring at the screen as footage played. Hours of damning evidence. Kelsey and Jason, meeting in secret, sneaking off together, wrapped in each other's arms like a devoted couple. The closeness, the stolen glances, the way they moved, it was all there. Clear, undeniable. Then came the photographs, the phone records, the emails. Each piece stacking on top of the last, forming an unshakable wall of betrayal. I was torn between admiration and disgust. Larry had done his job well, too well. His reputation as a ruthless investigator was well earned. A hollow ache settled in my chest. I had never pictured Kelsey as the kind of woman to betray me, let alone with someone like Jason Stanton. But in hindsight, it made sense. He had the looks, the confidence, the charm. Tall, athletic, well-educated. He had been a standout baseball player in college, only missing out on a professional career due to a shoulder injury. Now, he was a rising star in the corporate world, climbing the ranks with ambition and ease. A year ago, he had been promoted to oversee Kelsey's department. That meant late nights, shared projects, countless opportunities to blur the lines between professionalism and something far more personal. I exhaled sharply, running a hand through my hair. How did I not see this coming? The realization hit like a weight pressing against my ribs. My breath came short, vision dimming at the edges. I shoved my chair back and lowered my head between my knees. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. The dizziness began to fade, but the emptiness inside me remained. I wasn't just losing my wife, I was losing my best friend, my partner, the mother of my child. And then it got worse. Bill clicked a button, rewinding the audio from the previous day's recording. Jason's voice filled the room. And that's why he wants us all together. Kelsey sounded excited. Really? Do you love me? Of course. You are the most incredible woman I've ever known. I love you, and I want us to be a family. You mean you, me, and Caitlin? Absolutely. What about Matt and Shannon? We'll divorce them. You'll get Caitlin, and we'll finally have the life we deserve. Silence. I could imagine Kelsey absorbing what he had just proposed. You really love me, don't you, Kelsey? Yes, of course. There was hesitation in her voice. I never really thought about leaving Matt. Jason's response was immediate. Well, start thinking about it. He will never give you what I can. You'll be the star of every event, part of high society. You'll travel, experience things he could never afford. The sheer arrogance in his voice made my skin crawl. Losing Caitlin would destroy him, Jason continued. She's his entire world, but I'll be 10 times the father he ever was. In a year, she won't even want to visit him. Kelsey's voice wavered. Why do you hate him so much? What did he ever do to you? I leaned forward. Yes, Jason, why do you hate me so much? He doesn't deserve you, Kels. No ambition, no drive. He's just another worker bee making someone else rich. Kelsey laughed, almost as if defending me. You do know he's a plant manager, right? His facility employs 400 people and outperforms every other division in revenue and production. A flicker of pride sparked inside me. At least she acknowledged that, though I would have preferred this conversation to happen at home, not in a hotel room. Jason's response was cutting. He's weak, a beta, no MBA, no real future. He was a placeholder, nothing more. If I wanted to, I could crush him in a second. Kelsey's voice turned sharp. Don't act like you're so much better than him. You don't know anything about his past. She hesitated before continuing. He ran with a rough crowd when he was younger. He knows how to handle a tool. He almost went down a bad path before deciding to turn his life around. That's why he didn't go to college right after high school. Jason scoffed. And that doesn't change the fact that I'm the one you love now. Silence. Then Kelsey spoke again. I won't let you fight him. I don't want anyone getting hurt. Not for Caitlin's sake. Not for mine. Jason's voice remained firm. I love you, Kelsey. A long pause. Then her voice softened. I love you too. Another dagger to my heart. How do we do this? When do we file? Jason didn't hesitate. I need to tie up a few things before serving Shannon with divorce papers. But considering her mental health struggles and the fact that we haven't been intimate in over a year, it won't be difficult. I'll split our assets evenly. She won't put up a fight. Kelsey's response was calculated. You need to file first before I even talk to a lawyer. She was careful, smart, not willing to risk her comfortable life until she was certain she had somewhere to land. Deal, Jason agreed without hesitation. Then his voice dropped. Now come here, woman. I shut off the recording. I had heard enough. I turned to Bill, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. What do I do now? He didn't hesitate. You move first, Matt. I swallowed hard. What if she changes her mind? A new voice joined the conversation. Larry, stepping out of the shadows. They rarely do, Mr. Franks. At this point, nothing you say or do will change the path they've chosen. For the first time, I got a good look at Larry. He wasn't the seedy, worn-down investigator I had pictured. He was in his 30s, well-groomed, sharp-eyed. His suit was tailored, professional. He carried himself like a man who knew exactly what he was doing. And despite everything, I could tell. He genuinely cared. And even if she did change her mind, Larry added, would you even want her back after this? I exhaled slowly, staring at the dark screen in front of me. Probably not. I turned to Bill. Give me a day or two to think. I'll call you when I decide. Bill nodded. Take your time. I'll start drafting the paperwork so we're ready, but nothing will move forward unless you give the green light. Good. Do it that way. As I left the office, Larry followed, slipping a card into my hand. Here's my personal number, Mr. Franks, in case you ever need anything. I looked at him and nodded. Call me Matt. A small smile tugged at his lips. Fair enough, Matt. Just so you know, I have contacts who could help you get even if you ever decide to. He smirked. They don't call me Larry the Dastardly for nothing. I chuckled despite myself. I'll keep that in mind, but honestly, I don't think I have it in me to do that to Kelsey. Larry nodded, slipping his hands into his pockets. Still, it's good to have options. And with that, he turned, walking toward his car. I spent the entire weekend trapped in my own head, unable to focus on anything else. Meanwhile, Kelsey moved through the days as if nothing had changed, completely unaware, or maybe just indifferent, to the fact that I was deciding the future of our family. And that's when it hit me. She wasn't oblivious. She had already made her decision. A whirlwind of emotions churned inside me. Uncertainty, anger, frustration. But the most unbearable part was the humiliation, the gut-wrenching blow to my pride. My whole life had been built around two things, my work and my family. What was left of me without them? My biggest concern was Caitlin. How would this affect her? The idea of Jason stepping into my role, influencing her life, made my stomach turn. I pictured him at her wedding, standing where I should be, acting as if he had any right to that moment. I tried drowning the thoughts with booze, but nothing worked. If anything, it only made the rage burn hotter. By Sunday morning, as I sat on the back porch nursing a pounding headache, I finally saw the truth. It didn't matter if I fought it. This was happening. Kelsey was already gone. The distance in her eyes told me that much. Our family had been broken long before I caught her in the lie. Now the only thing I had control over was how and on whose terms this chapter would end. A saying popped into my mind. Lead, follow, or get out of the way. Backing down wasn't an option. And I sure as hell wasn't about to follow these two liars. That left only one choice. I had to take control. On Monday morning, I picked up the phone and called Bill. Bill, it's Matt Franks. Good morning, Matt, he greeted. Have you decided how you want to proceed? Yes, draft the paperwork. Use only the legal evidence Larry gathered. Everything gets split evenly. I hesitated. What about the house? Should we sell it? That's your call, Bill said. I exhaled slowly. Yeah, we should. The mortgage was covered by a low-interest loan from my trust fund, which means we were essentially paying ourselves all this time. We'll divide any profits, but I'll repay the full amount of the loan plus interest. Also, include a $200,000 payout to Kelsey from my trust. Call it a severance package if you want. If she knows she won't walk away empty-handed, she'll be more inclined to cooperate. Bill paused before responding. You know you don't have to give her a dime, right? The prenup is airtight. I know, I admitted, but I've thought about this long enough. She may not deserve it, but she worked hard, and we built this life together. I'd rather she have some financial stability so she doesn't rely on Jason. My voice hardened. That fool doesn't deserve a damn thing. He took my wife. That's more than enough. There was a moment of silence before Bill spoke again. What about Caitlin? I want full custody, I said firmly. I know that won't be easy. But maybe Larry can find something on Jason that makes him look less fit to be around a kid. I heard he was a big fraternity guy in college. Maybe he got a little carried away with some of his celebrations. Tell Larry to start digging. Bill's pen scratched against paper as he jotted down notes. If full custody isn't an option, then draft the most generous shared custody agreement you've ever written, I continued. Make it so fair that Kelsey has no reason to fight it. Bill let out a small sigh. And Jason? I want to sue him, I said without hesitation. Alienation of affection. I also want Shannon involved. She deserves to know exactly what's going on. Find a legal way to get her every detail. If she wants to divorce him, draft the petition. I'll cover her legal fees if necessary. We can serve them both at the same time, Bill noted. But you realize that won't change what's already happened. I know. I just want to shake things up a little. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling as another thought came to mind. Kelsey's company, I said suddenly. What about it? Bill asked. They let her sleep with her boss, I pointed out. I doubt their employee handbook has a morality clause, but they should be concerned about an executive having an affair with his subordinate. Jason was her direct superior. You realize that lawsuit probably won't go anywhere, Bill cautioned. I do, I admitted, but let's push the issue and see what happens. Bill sighed. Matt, this is going to get expensive. We're talking about a lot of legal fees, and if things get contested, it could drag on even longer. I know, but it's just money. My voice was firm. I'll spend every last dollar making sure Jason and Kelsey don't walk away with more than they deserve. As my dad always said, when you involve lawyers, the only real argument is over how much it'll cost. Bill chuckled. Your dad was a smart man. Then his tone softened. Matt, you don't have to do this. You don't have to give her anything from your trust. I know, I repeated. But I've thought about this all weekend. If she walks away with something, she might be more willing to agree to my terms. And to be honest, she earned at least that much. We built this life together. I don't want her struggling. I just want her away from me. I clenched my jaw. But Jason, he gets nothing. Anger simmered beneath my skin, my hands tightening into fists. Jason had taken what was supposed to be mine, stolen the life I had built. I'd always been fair, always tried to do the right thing, but fairness didn't matter anymore. One last thing, Bill, I said. Don't file yet. I want everything ready, but I want her to make the first move. It buys me more time in the house with Caitlin. Bill considered that. Understood. I'll have everything prepared, but nothing gets submitted until you're ready. I work from home on Saturdays, so call me anytime if you change your mind. We can't file until Monday, but I can have someone waiting at the courthouse when they open. Good, that's the plan. After hanging up, I pulled Larry's business card from my pocket and dialed his number. Larry, it's Matt Franks. Matt, he greeted. You ready for some fun? Not yet, I replied, but I need you to hold off for now. No problem, he said. What's the job? Should we meet? Yeah, give me an hour. I was already waiting when he pulled into the parking lot. He grabbed a coffee and a sandwich before sliding into the chair across from me. I want a complete file, I told him. Everything. Photos, videos, recordings. I want it sent to Shannon anonymously. Maybe through email. Larry smirked. I know a guy who works the dark web. He could make sure she gets it. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. Or if you really want to mess with them, we could post a video online. Maybe send some nasty messages to Kelsey's parents or coworkers. I shook my head. No, Kelsey needs to stay here. I don't want her so humiliated that she runs off with Caitlin. And no matter how much I hate what she's done, I still love her, even if she doesn't love me anymore. I pushed the envelope across the table toward Larry. This should be enough to get things rolling. Let me know if you need more, I said. Larry took it, flipping through the stack of cash before nodding. $3,000 will do the job, he said. At least he was upfront about it. Keep the extra as a retainer. I have a feeling I'll need your services again. But for now, hold on to everything until I give the word. I want them blindsided. Larry jotted something in his notepad. Oh, and see what you can dig up on Shannon's medical records. If she has any history of mental health issues, that could be relevant in the custody case. Understood, he said. And Bill wants anything from Jason's college days that we can use against him. The more the better. Larry smirked. Already on it. We finished our drinks, making small talk about his time in law enforcement. He shared a few war stories, and I threw in a couple of my own. When we were done, we shook hands and parted ways. That had been 3 months ago. Now, as I sat in my office, I heard the door open. Bill walked in, followed by his assistant and Larry. Bill didn't waste time. Is today the day? I let out a slow breath. Yeah, it's time. Larry leaned back, arms crossed. Still no sign that Kelsey has hired a lawyer. Not that I've seen, I said. After Bill's call, I'd done a quick scan through her email and messages. Nothing suggested she had legal representation yet. I'll do a deeper check today and should have a clearer picture by Monday morning. Larry exchanged a knowing glance with Bill but said nothing. I turned back to him. Anything solid on Jason? Oh yeah, Larry said, leaning forward. His old fraternity got caught up in some nasty stuff back in the day. Pills, underage girls, investigations into sexual misconduct allegations, no convictions, but plenty of smoke. I've already sent the files to Bill. Bill, flipping through a folder, nodded. I've got everything. If we need it for the custody battle, it'll be ready. He slid a set of papers toward me, the final versions of the documents we'd been working on. Sign here, he said, pointing. I picked up the pen and started signing, 1 page at a time, while Bill's assistant notarized everything. When I finished, I set the pen down and met their eyes. Larry, find out who Shannon Stanton hired as her attorney. Once we know, Bill, see if he's competent enough to work with. If he is, share our legal file with him. Bill hesitated. And if he's not, then we'll figure out another way to get Shannon involved. But I'd rather do this by the book. Larry, no need to dump the entire scandal file on her. Larry chuckled and took a sip of coffee while Bill gave me a thoughtful look. Bill, I want to pick up the paperwork on Monday afternoon. I'll hand it to Kelsey myself before we officially serve her on Tuesday. Bill nodded. I'll set up the process server for Tuesday morning. Good. I want Jason and his company served later that afternoon. We also need to loop Shannon in sooner rather than later. Bill, send her lawyer our legal file on Monday, as long as it doesn't interfere with my conversation with Kelsey that night. I ran a hand through my hair, exhaling. By Wednesday, everything will be in motion. Bill sat up suddenly. Matt, where is Kelsey supposed to stay Monday night? I shrugged. Any issue with her staying at the house for a few days? No legal issue, Bill admitted. But until she officially agrees to move out or you get a court order, I'd be careful. And definitely don't share a bed with her. Some attorneys could spin that into something unexpected, I smirked. Not a problem. That part of our relationship is long over. Bill chuckled. Just covering the bases, I turned to Larry. What do you have on Shannon's medical history? She's been battling bipolar disorder and depression for years, Larry replied. Word is the meds completely liquidated her sex drive, so Jason went looking elsewhere. I sighed, shaking my head. I don't even want to know how you found that out. Larry just grinned while Bill shook his head as if this was just another day at the office. I focused back on Bill. Does this change anything? Not immediately, he said. But it could be useful down the line, especially when we negotiate custody. We can put it in writing that Caitlin is never left alone with Jason. Bill tapped at his tablet, adding notes as we wrapped things up. After a bit more discussion, the meeting ended, and we all went our separate ways. The weight of the next few days settled heavily on me. Monday was coming fast, and Kelsey had no idea what was about to hit her. On Sunday, I called my aunt and asked if she could pick Caitlin up from school Monday and keep her overnight. Kate loved visiting the farm, playing with the dogs, feeding the animals. My aunt would take her back to school Tuesday morning, and that evening, Kelsey and I would sit her down and break the news. When I told Caitlin the plan, she seemed excited, but also a little confused. Why am I staying until Tuesday? She asked. Mom and I need to talk about some important things, I said, keeping my voice light. She hesitated, searching my face, but then nodded. That night, I moved into the guest room. Kelsey barely reacted. She just let out a sigh, like she had been waiting for me to do it. Lying there in the dark, I ran through my mental checklist one last time. Then finally, exhaustion took over. Monday morning, I made a call to my VP of operations, letting him know I'd be out for the week. After checking in with my assistant and senior production manager to ensure everything at work would run smoothly in my absence, I turned my attention to what really mattered. By 1 in the afternoon, I was walking into Bill's office, only to find Larry already there. A stack of legal documents covered the desk, and there was a charged energy in the room. Bill barely looked up as he handed me an envelope. We submitted the paperwork first thing this morning. Here's Kelsey's copy. She'll be officially served at 9 tomorrow. That timing work for you? Yeah, that's fine, I said, sliding the envelope into my bag. I'm going to try convincing her to take the rest of the week off. If anything changes, I'll let you know. Bill nodded before shifting gears. Larry tracked down Shannon's lawyer. He's solid. I sent him what we have, and he's eager to file a countersuit for infidelity. He's also pushing for more than a straight 50/50th asset split. But he agreed to hold off until tomorrow morning. All right. I rubbed my temples, already feeling drained. Are we missing anything? Bill scanned his notes. Kelsey has a meeting with her lawyer next week. I pulled that from her emails and phone records. Larry glanced at me. You good? I nodded, exhaling slowly. Yeah, it's out of our hands now. As I left Bill's office, I pulled out my phone and sent Kelsey a message. Me. Hey, you getting home at a decent time tonight? Kelsey. 5:30. Why? What's up? Me. Nothing. I've just been a little distracted this weekend. Thought we could catch up tonight. Aunt Alex is picking up Kate for the night. I was thinking of grabbing dinner. Any requests? Kelsey. That's sweet. I've got it covered. Dinner's at 5:30. Guilt twisted in my stomach. Setting her up like this felt low, but deception wasn't exactly foreign to either of us at this point. Maybe she'd just assume I was trying to be thoughtful. Kelsey got home at 5:15, changed into something comfortable while I set the table, and took her seat just as I poured the wine. She took a long sip, relaxed. We passed food between us, keeping the conversation light, surface level. She had no idea what was coming. As we neared the end of dinner, I casually asked, "What's your schedule like for the rest of the week?" She shot me a suspicious glance. Why? I shrugged. I just thought you might want to take a few days off after we talk. Her expression darkened. Talk about what? I met her gaze and set my wine glass down. I know, Kelsey. I placed the envelope in front of her. She glanced at it, then back at me, reaching for her glass again. I know about Jason, I continued evenly. And I know you're planning to file. She inhaled sharply, nearly choking on her wine. Her expression turned to stone as her mind raced, trying to assess just how much I knew and whether she could still control the damage. What is this? Some kind of bluff? She asked. No bluff. I leaned forward. I know you have an appointment with a lawyer next week. I know Jason already filed for divorce from Shannon, and I know you were planning to take Caitlin and leave. I reached into my bag and pulled out the photos, sliding them across the table. Her hand trembled slightly as she picked them up. As she flipped through them, her eyes glistened, her breath catching. I saw her swallow hard, hiccuping, something she always did when overwhelmed. I'm so sorry, Matthew, she whispered. I never wanted it to come to this. I don't know what to say. She stared at the table, unable to look at me. I kept my voice calm. I've known for months, Kelsey. I've had time to process it. I exhaled slowly. I'm not going to lie, it hurts like hell, but I only have one question for you. Her lips parted slightly, her fingers tightening around the edges of the photographs. Was it something I did, or something I didn't do? She blinked rapidly. No, she said immediately. It wasn't you. She hesitated before continuing, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't know how it happened. I wasn't looking for this, I swear. You've always been a great husband, a wonderful father. I fell in love with him. There it was, the confession. Strangely, hearing her say it out loud settled something in my chest. This wasn't about what I had done or failed to do. She had simply chosen him. There was no fixing this. Our marriage wasn't falling apart. It was already gone. I pulled out another set of papers and placed them in front of her. This is my offer. I've already filed, so if you agree, there's nothing else you need to do. Her fingers hovered over the papers before she picked them up, scanning the terms as I spoke. Our prenup holds, so my trust is untouchable. We sell everything we own jointly and split it evenly, including the house. Since I filed first, I'm requesting primary custody of Caitlin, but I'm open to a fair visitation schedule. I'll continue covering her insurance. But you'll need to get your own. Your 401k, pre-marriage investments, and your mother's inheritance stay with you. I'm not trying to take what's yours. We'll split any shared investments. Caitlin and I will remain in the house until it sells, and I'm offering you $200,000 from my trust. Consider it a clean slate to start over. If you and Jason plan to make things permanent, I strongly suggest getting a prenup. I watched as she absorbed everything. I should have Caitlin, she said firmly. A girl needs her mother. I don't disagree, I said, nodding, but you can still be a strong presence in her life. What I don't trust is Jason's influence on her. I know what he's planning. He wants to win her over, make me irrelevant. He never had a child of his own, so he's set on taking mine. He already took my wife, but he won't take my daughter. Her face turned red. Jason would never hurt her, and keeping her from me— I held up a hand, cutting her off. We'll let the lawyers handle that. I want to keep this civil. She locked eyes with me, her jaw tightening, her hands gripping the edges of the table. For now, Caitlin stays here with me, I stated firmly. You can stay in the master bedroom for a few days, maybe a week, until you figure out your next steps. Kelsey's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. I exhaled slowly. Kels, I still love you, I admitted, my voice quieter now. I thought we were building something that would last, but you've destroyed that, and I don't know how to pick up the pieces. My world is crumbling, and I'm trying my best to handle this with some decency. I don't want to hurt you the way you hurt me, but if you push me, if Jason gets involved, I won't hold back. A shadow passed over her face as my tone hardened. And trust me, Kelsey, I have the resources to make sure neither of you come out on top. She inhaled sharply. She had seen this side of me before. I don't want this to turn into an all-out war, I continued. So let's keep things civil. Let the attorneys handle what needs to be handled. No matter what happens between us, we both love Caitlin, and we're both going to be in her life. That's not changing. A flicker of understanding crossed her face. I took the rest of the week off, I told her. Legally, you have to be served, and that's scheduled for 9 tomorrow morning, here at the house. I wanted to spare you the embarrassment of it happening at work, so I suggest you take a few days off. I leaned in slightly. This isn't going to be easy, but we need to sit Caitlin down and explain what's happening. I was thinking tomorrow night, or maybe we keep her home Wednesday morning so we can talk to her together. Kelsey's fork sat untouched on her plate. Her face had gone pale. For the first time, I saw the weight of her choices hit her. She had only herself to blame. I had been oblivious, completely unaware, until she shattered everything. She swallowed hard, looking as if the air had been sucked from her lungs. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "All right, Matt. You planned this well. You got ahead of us. I don't know how, but you did." She let out a shaky breath. "I'll call work in the morning and let them know I'm staying home until at least Wednesday. Do you think Alex can keep Caitlin until then?" "Yeah," I said. "I'll give Aunt Alex a call. She can keep Caitlin at the farm and bring her back Wednesday morning so we can talk." At the mention of my aunt, Kelsey flinched slightly. Maybe she suspected Larry was involved, but decided not to ask. Instead, she reached for the stack of papers, skimming them without a word. "I'll let you know if I have questions," she murmured. I gave a short nod. "Good night, Kels." She didn't respond. Instead, she rose from the table, walked to the master bedroom, and shut the door behind her. The lock clicked into place. I watched her go, unfazed. She needed time to absorb everything. That wasn't my problem anymore. I'd already moved my things to the spare room. I called my aunt and gave her a vague explanation about us dealing with family matters. Without hesitation, she agreed to keep Caitlin an extra night and drop her off Wednesday morning. Then I sat Caitlin down and told her she wouldn't be going to school the next day. She was confused, but didn't seem to mind when I reassured her that her mom and I would explain everything soon. That night, as I moved through the house, putting things away, I caught the faint sound of Kelsey's voice through the closed bedroom door. She was on the phone, speaking in hushed, frantic tones. Later, after the call ended, I heard quiet sobs, the kind that came from deep, unshakable grief. She was mourning the life she had destroyed. The next morning, I woke early to the sound of Kelsey making calls. She was rearranging her work schedule, setting things in motion. At exactly 9 a.m., she came downstairs dressed casually, her face expressionless. Without hesitation, she opened the door and accepted the thick envelope from the process server. She didn't even bother looking through it. She already knew what was inside. Without a word, she grabbed her purse and keys and walked out. I didn't ask where she was going. I could guess. Jason, her lawyer, or whoever else she thought could make her feel like the sufferer in all this. Later that afternoon, Bill called. Jason and his company had been served. But there was more. Shannon had also filed a lawsuit against Jason, and it had landed at nearly the same time as mine. Bill's voice was steady, but his words were a warning. "Matt, be careful. Jason isn't taking this well. He's been making threats." I frowned. Jason had already won. He had my wife. Why was he reckless enough to make things worse? Just in case, I went to my safe, retrieved my .45 ACP, and checked the magazine. After loading it, I cocked the slide and placed the tool within arm's reach as I sat in front of the TV. A few hours later, I was at the kitchen sink when a black BMW pulled into the driveway. I straightened, my stomach tightening as Jason climbed out. His face was twisted with rage, his movements erratic. Then he yanked open the back door of his car and pulled out a baseball bat. I turned on my heel and strode to my chair, grabbing my phone as I sat. I dialed emergency and kept my voice calm as the operator answered. "My wife's boyfriend just showed up in my driveway with a baseball bat," I said. "Officers are en route," the dispatcher replied. Before I could say anything else, another car screeched to a halt outside. Kelsey. I could hear her frantic voice, pleading with him, her words frantic and desperate. Then came a sharp, terrified scream. A second later, my front door burst open. Jason stormed in, his face red, veins bulging in his neck. His voice was raw with fury. "You son of a witch!" he shouted. "You got me fired! You ruined my divorce!" His entire body trembled, the bat gripped tightly in his hands. I let my fingers close around my pistol, my pulse steady. Jason's grip on the bat tightened, his chest rising and falling in heaving breaths. "I took your wife," he spat, voice dripping with venom. "And now I'll take your daughter too." He took a step forward, then another. I let him get 5 feet closer before I drew my tool. His wild eyes flickered, but the anger clouded his judgment. He barely seemed to register what was happening as he raised the bat. I squeezed the trigger. The first shot cracked through the air, the force of it jerking him back. The second followed an instant later, years of instinct guiding my aim. Jason staggered, his momentum carrying him forward even as his body betrayed him. By the time the third shot rang out, he was already falling. I noticed movement near the doorway, but my focus was locked on the threat in front of me. The last bullet ripped into the wooden frame, missing Kelsey by inches. Jason crumpled to the floor, the impact sending a sharp crack through the room as his body hit the hardwood. The ringing in my ears muffled everything. The distant wail of sirens, the pounding of footsteps, the chaotic shouting. Then suddenly orders were being screamed at me, the unmistakable weight of multiple tools aimed in my direction. Drop the weapon, hands where we can see them. Dazed, I barely registered the words. Slowly, I lowered my tool, setting it on the floor before raising my hands. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of investigations, statements, and legal proceedings. Jason had been declared dead on the scene. As reports came in, the full story unraveled. That morning, he had received 2 devastating blows, my lawsuit and divorce papers from Shannon. Both arrived simultaneously. The incriminating photos left no doubt as to who had exposed his affair. Standing beside him when he opened the envelope, Kelsey had seen the same images. The betrayal was clear, even to her. Moments later, they were summoned to the vice president's office, where they foolishly admitted to the affair, assuming a confession might smooth things over. Instead, Jason was fired on the spot. His world collapsed in that instant. I became the sole target of his rage. He stormed out of the office without a word, drove home, grabbed an old baseball bat from his collection, and headed straight for me. Kelsey, watching from a second-floor window, knew exactly where he was going. She rushed after him, catching up to him in my driveway, desperate to stop him. He struck her once, hard enough to leave a bruise. But she didn't back down. She begged him to turn around, to think rationally, but he was already too far gone. I had been warned. I had been ready. Kelsey walked away with only a bruise, but the damage ran much deeper. The trauma clung to her like a shadow. She never truly recovered. Between police interviews, legal consultations, and court hearings, I barely spoke to her. We never discussed what had happened in our home that night. In a matter of hours, she had lost everything: her marriage, her lover, her daughter. The woman who once stood so confidently beside me had become a hollow version of herself. She remained in contact during the divorce proceedings, but only minimally. She never challenged a single term, never hired a lawyer. The process moved quickly. I was awarded full custody of Caitlin without a fight. What surprised me most was that Kelsey never accepted the financial settlement I had offered. Bill held the funds for nearly a year, waiting for her to claim them. When she never did, he returned them to me. She never came back for anything. For a while, she stayed with extended family, then disappeared entirely. She had a few scheduled visits with Caitlin, but they were tense, unnatural. I made sure Caitlin was always available, but Kelsey showed up only sporadically. When she did, she seemed distant, as though she had already checked out of our daughter's life. By the time the 4th missed visit came and went, I knew she wasn't coming back. Rumors spread. People said she had started with painkillers before turning to harder pills. She had been prescribed medication to help her cope with the breakdown, but it seemed to push her further into a downward spiral. The last whispers I heard suggested she had lost everything: her job, her savings, her friends. And then, nothing. She vanished. Caitlin lost her mother. I lost my wife. The house held too many memories, so we sold it. I found a home nearby, keeping Caitlin in her school district, and we did our best to rebuild. Therapy helped, at least for a while. I stopped going after 6 months. I didn't have the luxury of dwelling in the past. My daughter needed me. Caitlin struggled for years. The divorce, her mother's disappearance, the violent night that changed everything, it haunted her. No child should have to process that kind of pain. It took me 3 years before I even thought about dating again. When I finally did, I met Jo. She was patient, understanding, never pressing me for more than I was ready to give. Most importantly, she respected Caitlin's emotions. We took things slow, slower than either of us probably wanted, but in time we built something real. 16 months later, we married. Jo and I raised Caitlin together. We never had more children. It wasn't something we felt we needed. Life eventually found its rhythm again. The nightmares faded. The past loosened its grip. But for Caitlin, the hardest moments came during milestones: graduations, birthdays, life achievements, the empty seat, the unanswered questions, the silent wondering if her mother might suddenly reappear. She never did. I hired Larry multiple times over the years to track Kelsey down. Every lead turned into a dead end. Eventually, I had to accept the most likely truth. She had died alone, lost to obsession, her story ending in quiet obscurity. It was a painful road, one I never expected to walk, but in the end, we survived. We moved forward, and despite everything, I was grateful for one thing. Planning ahead had saved Caitlin's future.